This video is sponsored by Squarespace. So the other week, I was in San Luis Obispo in California for the Tesla Takeover event. It's basically a meetup where a bunch of nerds like myself get together and check out cool cars, accessories, mods, and innovations in the electric vehicle space. There were some pretty cool things going on, like racing on an old airstrip, and after hours, we did some ripping through the canyons to catch an awesome sunset. But my main focus for this event was to capture as much drone footage as I could for the event coordinators. With that said, I wanted to bring something that was small and conspicuous and quiet, something I could put up in the air and not draw that much attention to. I mean, as much as I wanted to bring my Inspire 3 because that camera is just so phenomenally good, I knew that bringing a big drone that was loud would draw a lot of attention to my drone and maybe even myself when it was up in the air. So I wanted to bring something that was small and quiet, something that not a lot of people would notice as they're walking around the event. Because of this, I flew 2 drones in tandem all week. I had the Air 3 to capture most of the photos and videos of the event, while the Mini 3 Pro was brought for one sole purpose, and that was capturing hyperlapses. You see, at an event where there's a lot of movement, capturing these time lapses and hyperlapses is a really great way to showcase all the activity that's going on. Every year I go to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, and I always see crews walking around with cameras on sliders capturing moving time lapses, right? And being able to show all the movement exaggerated with people walking from booth to booth, people interacting with each other, really makes it seem like the event is more busy than it actually is. So at this Tesla Takeover event, I basically tried to do the same thing, but from the air. I wanted to show people entering the event, the cars loading into the parking area, the people interacting with some of the different vendors that were spread across the grounds, and the people coming and going from the speaking tent as speakers like May Musk were going on and off stage for their talks. There was so much happening, and while from the standard videos that I captured, you can get a good sense of the scale of the event, the hyperlapses are really the best way to show all the activity that's happening. Now you'll notice that some of these hyperlapses were captured vertically, and this is because I was primarily capturing videos to be shared in short form style content for social media. This would be YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok, basically all the platforms that cater towards vertical style video that people just aimlessly scroll and consume. This brings us to one of the reasons that I love using the Mini 3 Pro for capturing hyperlapses, and that is because of its camera. But before we get into these reasons, here's a quick word from this video sponsor, Squarespace. Just recently, I completely overhauled my Squarespace site with a brand new template to give it a clean feel. It was difficult to choose a template because of all of the great options that Squarespace offers, but I eventually found one that allowed me to share my images and information the way that I wanted. Redoing my website was seamless as the new Fluid engine made it easy to customize every aspect to my liking. I've been looking to find the best place to share my content online, and doing it on my own terms with Squarespace allows me to completely customize the experience. My website is like a central hub for all of my photos and videos, and I'm the one that gets to control how it looks and functions. To keep on top of how my website is performing, Squarespace's analytics go in depth so that I can see how much traffic my website is getting, what area my website is being viewed the most, and I can see which web pages and which content is performing the best. So a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and helping me display my work online for over half a decade. So when you look at the Mini 3 Pro, you'd probably think that this is not the best for capturing hyperlapses because of its small airframe. You see, when capturing a hyperlapse, the drone needs to fly on a precise route at a slow speed to get the smoothest results possible. A smaller drone like the Mini 3 Pro is more prone to being pushed around by the wind, but in my time flying this drone, I've gotten some great results in some pretty rough conditions. In fact, I think its size, amongst all the other factors that I have up here on the screen, are what makes this drone such a great option for being a hyperlapse workhorse. Like, even though I have access to drones like the Air 3 or the Mavic 3 Pro, this drone would still be thrown in my bag for those times where I need to get a good hyperlapse. So we started to touch on why the camera is such a good asset here on the Mini 3 Pro for capturing these hyperlapses, and the main reason behind that is because it can rotate vertically. You see, most of the hyperlapses that I capture find their way onto my Instagram or X accounts, which, if you aren't following me over there, my handle is @BillyKyle. I'll leave links in the description if you want to come over and say what's up. But anyway, because of this, I find myself cropping my images down to a vertical aspect ratio to play nice with these platforms. People are scrolling on their phones and just want content that fills up their entire screen. With that being said, even though I might be using the Mavic 3 Pro that can capture 20 megapixel photos, I actually will have a more clear, high-resolution photo by shooting it natively in a vertical format with the Mini 3 Pro. I will say, however, it is nice to capture hyperlapses in a full horizontal format, so you can have some leeway and keyframe your shot from side to side if the drone slightly veers off course, and you also have that full resolution horizontal shot that you could always post to a platform like this here on YouTube. But for those times where you know a shot is just going right onto a social platform like Instagram, it's nice to be playing with the full resolution of the image by capturing vertical photos natively. Now, despite the Mini 3 Pro being able to capture 48 megapixel photos. You unfortunately can only capture 12 megapixel photos when you're using the hyperlapse flight mode, which honestly is fine by me for a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, you're most likely going to be turning this into a video, and then that video will likely be in 4K, and 12 megapixels is plenty of resolution to create a nice 4K frame, whether it's going to be a horizontal or vertical frame. Also, could you imagine the file sizes if you were capturing, say, 750 48 megapixel photos? First of all, I don't think that a micro SD card could keep up with all of the information being written to it, but also you'd be left with like 70 total gigabytes for one hyperlapse, and it would be a little bit out of hand. So being able to deal with these smaller file sizes of 12 megapixels and being able to get a native 4K frame, whether it's horizontal or vertical, is plenty for me. Now, this is probably the most important factor when it comes to hyperlapses, and that is the flight time. The Mini 3 Pro has an advertised 47 minutes of flight time with the extended battery, and it damn near hits that mark. Basically, all of DJI's current available drones, so the Mavic 3, the Air 3, and the Mini 3, have crossed the 40-minute advertised flight time threshold, but the Mini 3 Pro still sits at the top as the champ with the longest flight time available out of any consumer drone that DJI sells right now. That means that you can easily capture a full 750 photo hyperlapse, which is the most amount of photos you can capture in one hyperlapse, and in some cases you could even squeeze out a 750 photo hyperlapse at a 3-second interval. This means that the entire mission would take you 37.5 minutes to complete, and while you might be returning on fumes, this drone could easily knock it out. I personally prefer to use a 2-second interval just because I think the motion looks more natural, but there are times where a 3-second interval is absolutely viable, like when you're capturing motion that isn't moving as fast. Think about it though, when you get up into the air, you need to spend some time setting up your mission, which will burn off some battery life. You also get hit with a forced landing at 10%, so the drone stops capturing photos and starts to descend at 10%, so you only have a certain amount of battery life to play with, and in some cases, I've actually been able to squeeze out 2 full 15-second hyperlapses, which take about 12.5 minutes to complete each on one battery with the Mini 3 Pro, so the Mini 3 Pro's flight time is one of the reasons why this is such a great drone for hyperlapses. Now, while we're on this topic of flight time, the batteries are also super easy to manage and charge while on the go. All DJI drones come with a charging hub for their batteries if you choose to purchase the Fly More combo, and because they're larger, they usually are more bulky and take longer to charge. You can cycle through batteries pretty quick and charge them up fast with the Mini 3 Pro charging hub because you don't have the same capacity. They're much smaller in size and how much power they can actually hold in comparison to, say, a Mavic 3 battery. You also don't need a super fast power source to charge the batteries. They can charge at full speed off of a battery pack or even a laptop port. Some of the larger drone batteries would require a 65 to 100 watt brick to charge as fast as possible. Now, hyperlapsing can be a very time-consuming process. I mean, if you're going to be capturing hyperlapse after hyperlapse after hyperlapse, the drone might be in the air for hours flying all by itself. So the fact that the Mini 3 Pro is compatible with the DJI RC and even the RC Pro, both controllers with built-in screens, means that you can spend less time having to worry about your phone overheating, your phone dying, managing multiple devices, and just setting it up on a dedicated device, putting the controller down, and letting the drone fly all by itself. From there, you now have access to your phone. It's free to make phone calls, jump onto your email, respond to some people, jump on your text message, respond to people. You can do things on your phone while letting the drone fly its hyperlapse mission using the dedicated screen on the controller. Now, on the topic of remotes, the transmission system is also super important. With the Mini 3 Pro having O3, you'll basically have no interruptions during your flight, which is great for the times where you want to do literally anything with this drone. Like, having a good amount of range and a little breakup is good no matter what you do with your drone, if you take photos, videos, or in this case, take hyperlapses. You see, one of the most annoying things about capturing hyperlapses is disconnects, because if you have a disconnect between the drone and remote controller for any amount of time, it could be 5 seconds, the drone will automatically begin returning to home and completely interrupt your mission. So if you're in the middle of capturing a hyperlapse and the sun is going down and you have a disconnect, the drone stops taking pictures, flies back to you, and ruins your hyperlapse. You can't just go and pick back up where you left off. It's going to have this super weird jump. It's just not going to work. So if this happens, you need to completely restart your mission. It's something that I experienced on the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2 when using OcuSync 2, but now that we have this new generation of transmission system in the Mini 3 Pro in O3, it makes that connection between the drone and controller so much more reliable, meaning no disconnect. I would say less disconnect, and it gives you a more reliable flight experience. Now, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, the sound. This drone is so quiet and inconspicuous, which is great for capturing hyperlapses because you might be in a more crowded area and the drone will just be hovering there for maybe up to 30 30 minutes. So being as stealthy as possible is such a big upside. The portability too, right? I mean, you can't beat it just throwing this inside of your backpack. I mean, really everything that you need to fly this drone and capture good hyperlapse can basically fit in almost one hand here, right? We have the controller, we've got, of course, the ND filters, the Mini 3 Pro itself, and the battery charging hub with 3 extra batteries. So this is going to let you pretty much take over the world when it comes to hyperlapses. You've got everything you need, and it all can fit in one hand. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up my TED Talk in terms of why the Mini 3 Pro is such a good drone for hyperlapsing. It's one that I turn to very frequently, again, because of the vertical shooting, but really, when it comes down to capturing these hyperlapses, you can't go wrong with a lot of the modern day drones that DJI sells because the flight time is off the charts and the image quality looks great across the board. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.